Well, joining us right now to talk about Senator Marco Rubio is Representative Trey Gowdy of that state of South Carolina. Thanks for joining us, Congressman.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Well, you know South Carolina pretty well. You've been elected and reelected there a couple of times, and I wonder, as you make your way around the state, what accomplishments of Senator Marco Rubio's are you touting there? What's resonating with the voters in South Carolina?
Well, I think Marco, despite the fact that he's in his first term in the U.S. Senate, is an expert on national security. And the military is incredibly important in South Carolina. National security is viewed as the preeminent function of the federal government. And when you can speak as authoritatively as you can, I mean, think back to the last debate, not the part that they play all the time, but the question he got on building a Sunni coalition, the question he got about North Korea. I think he is anybody on that stage and better than most on the issue that matter.
Yeah. Representative Gowdy, sorry, your phone just started bopped out on us there, but we did hear the very end of it. And you're right; it was a very strong moment in the debate on national security. But I wonder, the one question I would have loved to have asked the senator that hasn't been answered is he has promised to rebuild our military and refinance our military after years of neglect from the Obama administration. And I'm sure that plays well with all of the military interests and the veterans who live in South Carolina. But I haven't heard how he's going to pay for that. You know the budgetary constraints right now from being in the House of Representatives. How is Senator Rubio going to build up the military without either raising taxes or cutting other costs?
Well, I think having been here 5 years, I can tell you that military spending is not what drives our debt. Our debt is driven by four things, three of which are considered entitlements. One is interest on the debt. So whenever you're talking about fiscal discipline, whether it's plussing up defense spending, or frankly, if you're on the other side and you're talking about things that Bernie Sanders and Secretary Clinton are talking about, you have to have entitlement reform. And I have heard Marco talk about Social Security reform, Medicare reform. I mean, any politician who is spending more in any area and they are not addressing entitlement reform, you should, for the most part, tune them out.
Yeah, Congressman, if you're near a window or something, it really would help. We're having a little problem with your phone call. And I don't want to lose you because there's so much we want to ask you. Look, we are waiting for the Benghazi Report. We are waiting with bated breath to find out, what is going to come out of that. And I know you're not going to reveal the great details here, but you have been quoted as saying that it's rather eye-opening and it's coming pretty soon. Can you give us an update on where things stand and the kind of eye-opening things we might be finding out in the days ahead?
Well, sure. There are three components, three tranches to Benghazi. There's the security, which has gotten a lot of attention. There's the military response and our readiness and preparedness during the pendency of the two attacks, and then there's the administration's response in the aftermath. I have found that we are making great progress in understanding why the military did not respond, frankly, to Benghazi at all. They responded to Tripoli, and what the time delay was. Most people who stop me in South Carolina, and frankly elsewhere, that is the part of Benghazi that they most want to understand. We have the world's most powerful military, and yet we were not able to get there, frankly, within about 20 hours. So the only way to do that is to talk to the witnesses. And the thing I'm proudest of, we've talked to, closing in on 70 witnesses now, one of which was named Clinton, and she got a lot of attention. The other 60 somewhat are incredibly important as well. They've just been done in private, and for whatever reason, when things are done in private, people clearly they don't know about it, and sometimes the media is not as interested in it. When we release the report, you're going to see that we talked to witnesses nobody else talked to, and we gained access. Even this week, we gained access to information that you need to definitively answer the questions in Benghazi that no other committee of Congress bothered to access the information.
Wow. So there's still new information coming across right now.
Oh, heavens, yes. And there are witnesses that we are talking to that any serious investigation would have talked to. There were, 7 previous investigations? That's the Democrat talking point?
Yeah.
Just lay aside the fact that not a single one of them got Ambassador Stevens' emails. Not a single one of them talked to Susan Rice. And not a single one of them accessed any of Secretary Clinton's emails.
Yeah.
So I get that the media has kind of looked at our committee with the jaw decisis the day we began, but the reality is we're talking to people that nobody else has talked to, and we're accessing information nobody else has accessed. And because you're doing that, you're going to find information nobody else found.
Our guest is Representative Trey Gowdy of South Carolina. He is stumping for Marco Rubio ahead of the South Carolina primary. And, Mr. Chairman, I just want to follow up on one thing here. You just said, you've just learned some more information and just gotten some more details. In the same way the FBI has not yet questioned Secretary Clinton on her use of a private server for emails, I think they're waiting till the very end. Would you have preferred to have waited until you got all of this information before you had your session with Secretary Clinton?
Yeah, that was really the only thing I asked the Democrats is before. They wanted me to call her over a year ago, and I kept saying, if you're only going to have one conversation with somebody, it needs to be as constructive as possible, which means you need all of the information. That's just the way serious investigations go. I also would have preferred to have interviewed her in private, but and for this reason, I know that people wanted to hear from her, but you also saw a circus.
Yeah.
I mean, my Democrat colleagues do not act like that in private.
But I've got to ask you, sir, I know, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I got to ask you, you're the chairman of the committee, and we have a pretty solid majority in the House. Why didn't you just insist on the things that you wanted? Because God knows the Democrats would have insisted if they had majority.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit unusual. She is a witness. She's also a candidate for another office. She wasn't when we began, but that was not a terribly well-kept secret that she was going to run. So you have to weigh and balance. I mean, I don't want to spend all day Friday banging on the media, but I mean, can you imagine the response if we had taken her behind closed doors? Like we did.
We're again struggling with your phone, and I'm so sorry to our audience for the phone connection problems here. Just one real last question, if we get it. Time frame for the release of the report?
Within the next. We're going to send it to be declassified within the next, I'd say, 45 days.
Okay.
All right.
So we're still a ways out, but moving closer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always good to hear from you. And when you're in town, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah,
on your landline.
I apologize to the listeners, and I will do that next time. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Congressman. It's good to have you.
Yes, sir.